Hello, this is a match review to try and show new players how to play Broken Arrow. This game is very overwhelming when you first try to learn it, and hopefully I can help out a little bit and provide some entertainment if you already know how to play. There's going to be time codes at the bottom in the description and along the player, so if you're busy, and a lot of us are, you'll be able to skip ahead to the sections where important things are happening or start happening, different chapters of the match, but I am going to go through the whole thing and give my thoughts the whole way through. Don't want to waste anyone's time, so let's get straight into it. So I'm playing public, I'm not playing with other teammates. I have played with teammates before, recently as the game's come out. It's a lot easier when you have 5 people all on the same voice comms. And during that I've been playing either frontline or backline focus. Can't really get away with that quite as much in a public lobby, so I'm playing a hybrid deck here that's the best of both worlds. They're very similar decks, it just really changes a little bit what I bring in the infantry and support tabs. Get straight into a match against a Russian team, which is great. Typically I vote for the maps with the least number of cap points, they're just easier for me to understand and play right now as I'm still trying to improve as well. Disclaimer, I'm not like an expert or anything, I just love the game. And I think I've got better at it, and enough to be able to show new players what you can do and what not to do. Pano, as we get into it, is a very urban map, at least, I mean, both sides have a lot of buildings, but one side is literally a city that you fight over. Infantry is very important, but vehicles still are too. When we first get into the drawing section here, I usually try to tell my team, like, make sure to spawn jets right at the start. It's really important you control, or try to control, the airspace at the start, because that's really what defines the positioning of the whole match, or at least the start of the match, very much so. It defines the additional advantages. You really want to deny the enemy from being able to paradrop, airdrop you with big cargo planes. You also want to deny enemy helicopters as a secondary priority if there's no paradrop or after it. And then thirdly, you want to maintain air superiority pretty early on. Excuse my tongue twist. With newer players especially, I've noticed, like when the betas are going, airdropping is a pretty common, like, meta, but then as you get more experience, you're going to bring in the interceptors more to stop that, and then you'll end up just having, like, this kind of ace combat match at the start, where it's just a whole bunch of jets fighting each other. I'm also bringing in some recon here. I'm trying to bring in a couple of units of scout snipers with an Osprey, and I'm just trying to pick where I want to put them. You don't want anyone to come near your scouts, because that's how they get revealed. So we don't want to put the scouts anywhere near just a natural highway that the enemy's reinforcements will naturally trickle in through. So I end up putting one in the forest on the left, and one in that building on the right. And when I place them, I'm just hoping they get in there. Try not to go too far with them, because you don't want to go too far and die. But early on with a fast transport like the Osprey, this is like the best time to get recon really far through the map before the enemy's ground AA and vehicles have caught up. And are just going to see that coming and kill it if they see it. So we bring in the Hornet and the Harrier. I don't think my teammates had a lot or any interceptors to support me here. No, they do, they do. They have a Hornet there. We only had 2 here. We had 2 Hornets in the Harrier, it looks like, for right now. We had a Growler in the air, which is interesting. That's a seed plane. They do go for their airdrop right away. We take out one of the airdrops, but unfortunately the other one kind of gets through. It can be a bit tough to get your planes to engage exactly what you want to engage, and especially because there's some bugs right now with it as well. Which is in general why it's good to have as many interceptors on the field as possible at the start of the match. Unfortunately we didn't here, and you can see the enemy goes for the airdrop rush. They get like 4, they've got like 4 power drop planes going, and they get half the drop to work on our back point on the city side on the right. It looks like they get a full drop off on the other point that we're meant to hold, the natural I'll call them, which is where you're naturally meant to hold because it's on your side of the map. They basically power drop both our naturals, which, as you'll see throughout this match, is really important and defines the match, at least the first half of it, very much so. There's still a bit of an air combat going on here. The Hornet's out of missiles at this point. I'm just spamming pings at my teammate, like, hey, you need to move in there because they just power dropped that, you need to cap that point. I kind of like chase after this enemy jet for a while, but without missiles, you just gotta get out of there. I actually tried to record commentary during one of these matches, but I found I was just too overwhelmed playing the game to be very, like, smart or clever. Honestly, like, even now, reviewing the video of it, there's still a lot going on, and I probably miss things or get things wrong as I go, but I'll do my best. So we're still basically just trying to get control of the skies right now. I haven't brought in any Patriots, any radar AA, because I've just been too busy doing everything else right now, calling in interceptors. Now spending the money I would have spent on Patriot anti-aircraft radar batteries, I'm spending that on going, oh shit, my teammate just isn't going to take that point, and we're going to lose if I don't take that back right now. Because they took my 5 points. You lose the game instantly if all the points get capped. So it pretty much is, if I don't take this back now, we lose in like the first 3 minutes. People love to do this. It's very cheesy. It's very fun. So it's very important to just expect the power drop, and that's why you need to have just like, you know, 2 or 3 interceptors doesn't cut it. Everyone on your team ideally should be bringing like 1 to 2, ideally 2 each, and you should just have like 10 interceptors coming onto the map at the start of the match, while also bringing in some of your own helicopter troops and whatever else you're going to bring in the vehicle department to just quickly take position on the map before the match really gets into it. Now luckily, well, fortunately, we bring in the Marine Raiders right before the cap gets taken. You gotta be careful when bringing them in like that, because obviously I don't want to fly them straight over where the enemy is, because the Osprey will just get shut down on the way in. Doesn't really matter though. All that matters is that we block the cap and then reinforce. Those Raiders don't need to kill what's taking the cap. They just need to hold and block the cap progress while we bring in reinforcements to actually kill the enemy. I do end up moving them because I want to make sure that if they were seen being landed there by the helicopter, an enemy jet doesn't just come and bomb them, and then, you know, I lose the point. So I just reposition to try and be stealthy. Funnily enough, it does move me to see the unit that did manage to power drop here and is holding the place. We take them out with the Raiders and the help of some helicopter there, I think it was. And we cap this point back, luckily. Actually, like, flips instantly, which is interesting. Did you see that? That was weird. It was like almost red capped, and then as soon as we got rid of them, it flipped to like as if we were the ones capping it all along. That's interesting. I guess because it was a blue cap to begin with. Who knows? Anyway, enough worrying about that. Now, because I've had to scramble to do this, like this crap of bringing in reinforcements to deal with the power drop, I haven't really got other stuff set up that I'd like to have set up by now. I'd like to have Patriot anti-airnet set up already. What I'm trying to do in this match is essentially carrying from the back, is what I'm going to call it. Where I'm going to try and focus on supporting my teammates by worrying about everything but the very tip of the front line, so that they can focus on the very tip of the front line. There's a few reasons I do that. The number one reason is that this game is very overwhelming. It's incredibly overwhelming. It's very hard to learn as a result, and if you're trying to play this game and you really like it, but you want to like it, but like you're just having a hard time, don't feel bad. We're taking a front foot there with the Hornet. Don't feel bad. It's an incredibly hard game to learn, even if you're a veteran gamer. One way I try to make that easier on myself is I try not to focus on doing everything at once. I try not to. In this game, I end up doing a lot of stuff, but it's just a lot easier when you're not trying to do like every style of warfare at once, when you're not trying to do tanks, infantry, recon, helicopters, anti-aircraft, short-range anti-air, SHORAD, and long-range anti-air, all at the same time, and artillery. It's easy if you just focus on a few things and do them well, rather than trying to do everything at once and kind of doing everything kind of shitty and bad. Because you need to pay attention to your units in this, you need to micro them, you need to be thinking smartly, and you just, well, maybe you do, I just don't have time to handle everything at once. So that's one of the reasons I try to support from the back. It gives me the time when I'm not worrying about direct frontline engagements and units. I can worry more about what I'm doing from the back lines. The other reason is because new players, especially if you're trying to carry public lobbies, new players especially tend to just like go face. They just go straight for the enemy. They buy some tanks, they buy some infantry. They play it like you're playing Command and Conquer, like a traditional war game, or a traditional RTS. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the most intuitive thing to do when you get the game for the first time or the first few times. Or they might just be a player who just likes to go front, and that's totally cool. But the point is, if at least one person on the team isn't providing some very important backline support kind of roles, you're going to be super disadvantaged. You need to have radar AA to keep the skies clear of enemy jets. It's super important. And on a different but similar note, you really need to be providing counter battery artillery fire against their artillery every time it fires. You need to be suppressing that shit. The big reason for that is, if you think of this game in like MMO roles, frontline units like tanks and infantry, like conventional soldiers, they're really like the tanks of this game in an MMO, in a video gaming sense. They're really just there to, you know, take the attention of the enemy, to hold ground, and to hold, most importantly, capture points. They do kill things, of course. They are dangerous. But it's really not what they're best at. They're best at holding ground. Now, the unit that far out surpasses them in terms of killing shit is artillery and aircraft. Jets are incredibly fast. They're wherever you need them in about 20 seconds. They have incredibly lethal ordnance. And a lot of the jets in this game, well, especially the F-35, which you'll see as we get rolling here, can just bomb. If you do it right, they can just bomb and get away with it, like no problem. You know, you can just do it again and again and again. Artillery as well, if you shoot and scoot, if you fire then move, so you don't get counter-batteried. Also employed right, just does insane amounts of effectiveness across the battlefield. And the important thing about both of these types of warfare is that they're where you need them when you need them. Unlike normal units that have to, like, go to the place to fight the thing you need to fight. And you often don't have time to wait around for that, so... Airnet's up here. Taking out some drones. To be clear as well, I'm pretty sure the Russians were playing against her. The Russian players are playing against her pretty new as well. So, like, again, no matter the outcome of this match, you know, don't take it as like, oh yeah, you're like, yeah, beat those like expert Russian players. Like, we're all learning the game. We're all having fun here. And why did I say that right now? You may ask. Because I was just like thinking to myself, why are they flying those recon drones directly towards our front line like that to die? Everyone's figuring out the game. Anyway, it's good to get the preamble out of the way of, like, how I think of roles in this, because we're going to get into, like, the actual match a bit more here. So far, I've just been setting up that Patriot net, trying to handle the air. Got the Hornet coming in here. Let's just try, and I wanted to take out that helicopter, which I did take out in the swamp. And then I also end up firing off some AMRAAM, some missiles against that jet. Those recon that we set up earlier... And for how I automate this, I'm not really having time to talk about like the actual key commands I'm pressing, but you can use shift to queue up a lot of stuff, which I do all the time. So it's very important in this game because you just don't have time to do everything, especially not all at the same time, to get used to shift queuing things. Like when I brought in the Osprey of these Scout Snipers, I just like shift unload order, or like unload order, and then shift B to return to base. And I haven't thought about them for the past 10 minutes of the match, but they're there, you know, that's all I needed to do. It's very important to do that kind of stuff. Spend the spare moments you have on that kind of ordering before you get busy somewhere else. Now what we're doing here is we're bringing in an F-35 for a little cheeky strike on this anti-air unit that our Scout Snipers are spotting. The Scout Snipers have got a laser designator on. The F-35 comes in low. Right at the last second, we're going to drop our bombs that are going to home in on a laser designator. And the F-35's already out of there. The way you do that, and it's really important you learn how to use F-35s, right? We're doing it again here. Is you call in your F-35 to do these strikes, right? You call in your F-35. I've got mine with 1 JSOW in the top slot and 3 Stormbreakers in the bottom slot. So if you want to do it like I'm doing it here, that's the loadout you want with your F-35s, and I do have 2 of them. You bring it in, you select it once it's spawned in, and you press P 4 times to select 4 precision munitions. You have to select each one with a key press, and you have to then left-click each bomb you want to drop on the spot you want it to drop. It's a bit weird when you first get used to it, but once you do get used to it, it's very easy to do. So coming in, we bring the F-35 in, you hit PPPP, and then you click, 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 where you want it to go. And then once you've done that with your jet that's just spawned in, hit Shift B, and that'll RTB you right after the jet is done bombing. And then it's very important that throughout this, at the end or at the start, you go down to your panel on the bottom right and you click the afterburner icon for your jet. It's very important your afterburner is on. It increases your bomb range, and it also makes you fast enough to escape the area before enemy AA punishes you for your bomb drop. If you do all of that, that's the basic way to do F-35 drops. There's a bit more like tricks to it, like going low, going high. Going low makes you much less vulnerable to radar missiles, so make sure to hit V to go low after your strike. Or queue it up as well. Either way, just focus on the basics till you get used to it, because the basic run of it will get most of your strikes pretty good. The other thing with the F-35 is to not go too deep. So it has stealth technology, so you won't get fired on until you're already turning away, unless you try to go beyond their front line or if they have recon on your back line. So if you try to bomb targets beyond the front line, you're probably flying too close to their AA and you might lose the F-35. As long as you only bomb things on their front line though, generally you'll get away almost every time. And the one time you don't, you know, it happens. Don't be afraid of that, it's fine. This is why you have 2 F-35s. You'll see me use the F-35 a ton this match. Absolute ton. just checking my chat there, trying to like see if there's any kind of like communication going on. The chat system's not very good in this game right now. I hope they fix it. It's very like opt-in and no one really uses it. So I'm waiting for my F-35. Not actually waiting for my F-35 to come back. I'm waiting for the points to come back so I can send an F-35 over to the left right now. Right now, all I've really done is I've made use of those raiders that I used to stop the paradrop cap from the start. I've just sent them up. And what I'm going to be trying to do here is basically just trying to prepare an infantry push to take that point of theirs down on the other end of the city from us. I need to have a large amount of armored personnel carriers, AAVs, I use them with the extra armor. I need a large number of them because whenever you do an assault like this, you're always going to take losses, and you really just have to plan for it. You just have to be like, yep, I'm going to take losses. I need to have like double the infantry I would normally think I need because half of them are going to die on the way in probably. And that's kind of the way it goes. Bringing an F-35 in here, so again, summon the jet, PPPP to select warm up our bombs. We're going to wait till we get within bit closer range here, and then we're going to go click, 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 click. We're going to press N and click our laser designator on the target from the F-35, which allows us to hit the target on the move and gives us extra precision. Even if the target's sitting still, always laze if you can, because it's the difference between the bombs scattering slightly to the side of the tank or hitting dead on top of them, and dead on top hits are much more damaging. And of course, once you're done queuing all that up, hit Shift B at the end of your queue so that your jet immediately turns back for base the second their bombs are dropped. That's what's going to get you out of AA without dying. So I've moved up some recon on the right. Got a little Lav 25 of extra armor upgrade has taken a force recon up there. We've got everyone on hold fire. We don't want to be exposed, of course. H is the hotkey for hold fire. You can't see the little cancel icon that says hold fire is on when you're an infantry in a building, but they are on hold fire. We're going to do an F-35 strike on this Armada. I was going for a helicopter, but I decided this Armada looked better on the other side of the map. Just staying aware of the map here. Armadas are a very high value unit to strike. They're, I think, probably the most expensive thing the Russian deck has. They're like 400 points, I think, fully upgraded. So they're very, very priority targets to hit when you see them. They've got a little Ka-52 little attack helicopter coming around the side here. Sorry, it's an Mi-28. It's the other one. I definitely wasn't expecting him to get this ballsy with this helicopter. It's definitely come on for a little ride. It's a good move in the end because it's really punishing our lack of proper SHORAD. That's short-range air defense here. I need to have like a Lav AD, like a Lav air defense with a Stinger here to stop this thing. I don't. You can see in the top left, I'm really just like stressed for money, for points here a lot. I've had to do a lot of different things so far. And I've either forgotten to get certain things like Lav AD, or I just didn't have the money for it. We're doing a little bit of mortaring onto what was just spotted there, which is like a tow team, an enemy, sorry, Hornets, ATGM team anyway. It's really important to be doing stuff like this all the time. You want to keep the pressure on your enemy. This game, very much, as I keep saying, it's very overwhelming. And I think the way you want to think about that is, for one, you've got to, ideally, you're trying to stay as relaxed and calm, as thoughtful as you can. That's always going to be difficult when you get pressed, especially. Which is why it's easier to play from the back like this, to not really be the main front line, like you can see my teammates are trying to be on the other point. Because you have more time to think about things if you're not microing like tanks and infantry directly in combat all the time. Doing another F-35 strike here, we're going to do the same thing again, PPPPP, laser on, Shift B, and we're going to hit V to dive low after the strike. We're going to cripple that T-14 Armada. But anyway, well, the thing about pressure is, so that's what we want to be ideally, which means we want our enemy ideally to be the opposite. We want our enemy to be super stressed, panicked, worrying about too many different things at once. And every little problem that you give your enemy in this game is one more thing that's going to contribute to that stress. I guess it sounds kind of toxic, but really ideally, we want to make this game as little fun for the enemy as possible for the enemy players. We're going to stress them as much as possible, which sounds really toxic, but it's a good way to think of it, I think, is don't just think of this game in terms of the physical units on the field, think of it in mindset. That's why we want to like do stuff like mortar those ATGM teams, because even if it's like small potatoes, in the long run, remembering to do that is one, obviously killing a fucking unit, which is great. Two, it gives the enemy something to worry about. It's like, oh, my Cornet team that I liked in that building is now half health from the mortars. Now I have to think about resupplying it and falling it back. They've got recon looking at me, how do I find it? They've got mortars, should I counter battery them? It opens up a lot of potential questions for your enemy to have to think about and deal with. And while they're thinking about those, do something else. Just keep the pressure up. Try not to get too static with this game. When you're first learning it, just, you know, do your best, but as you have the mental capacity to think about it, try to, like, keep the pressure on your enemy, because I think the game's a lot about pressure. Another F-35 strike here. Keep these things coming in constantly as a US player. They are our best asset. I cannot stress enough how much the F-35 is important as a US player, at least to my playstyle. There are so many powerful units that I run into every single match. That would be a big headache for me to get something in place to deal with if I did not have F-35s. The F-35 can kill everything on the battlefield. Air, helicopters, as I'll show at some point during this match, vehicles, tanks. The loadout I have isn't that good at killing infantry and buildings, but with 2 strikes you can level a building and kill every infantry in it, so if you bring both F-35s in at once with 1 load of Stormbreakers each, you can totally do it. I should explain too. I'm surprised doing this review. There's so much to explain. We're like halfway through the match. There's so much to explain. I feel like I've barely said anything good at all. I hope it's good commentary. There's so much to talk about even in review. Anyway, the different munitions that you should understand the use of on the F-35. The JSOW is a cluster munition. That means it's really only good against vehicles. A dead-on hit on the top. It does like a damage over time, which doesn't stack, by the way. If you have 2 at once, stagger your bombs. Let the JSOWs hit like after 3 seconds, one after the other, because the damage doesn't stack. But they're damage over times that will usually not one-shot a heavy tank on their own, but they will cripple it. They will inflict all these statuses on it, like bad movement, bad weapon, critical hits, status effects. It'll panic and suppress them. And it'll do most of their health on a dead-on hit. Plus it's cluster, so it hits in quite a wide area around it. So if your enemy clusters vehicles, if you're having trouble with like tank spammers, you just like move 5 tanks in one little area, JSOW's gonna fucking destroy them. And if you follow up with a second JSOW after, you will kill heavy tanks on the second JSOW hit. And then lighter vehicles just fucking die. So JSOWs are amazing. Stormbreakers are good for lighter vehicles. They won't hurt heavy tanks, but they will hurt everything else. Now let's talk about the important movement of the match here. So finally we're making this infantry push. Now, as I was saying before, I've been bringing these guys in ages ago. Just getting them ready as points allowed. Trying to get more strikes on the enemy tanks here, but I end up going for this helicopter. When you're pushing these AAVs in like this, stagger them out, do not cluster. You don't want to like move all your infantry into one building because that's just how you get bombed. Never cluster anything in this game because that's just how you get fucking bombed. I missed there because the helicopter moves, but hopefully we get a more successful one in a second. So here I'm just trying to like, imagine the AAVs like boarding pods in like a Space Marine game. You're just trying to ram these things into a building to get your soldiers inside, pop your smoke on the way in, all that good stuff. With the F-35 here, you can hit helicopters with them, watch this. As you're coming in, as long as the helicopter isn't moving, it's very easy. Just make sure you press in, use your laser designator within the range of 4 kilometers for laser des, and drop bombs under where the helicopter is. The laser will guide them right in, and stationary helicopters have no chance to evade. They'll just get obliterated by those laser-guided bombs, as long as you put the laser on to guide them in. Back to the infantry here. The enemy's kind of not ready for this. They don't really have any infantry, or not, they had some, but not good enough infantry ready in the buildings for this level of assault. You can see they've been building up a ton of tanks in the woods instead. Now, my Marines don't really have a ton of great AT against these tanks. Their AT-4 is doing some damage, but it's not very high penetration. But these are worse tanks for the enemy usually, mostly here, and it's good that we use the F-35s to destroy all their T-14s, because our Marines couldn't penetrate those at all. But it doesn't really matter if the Marines kill the tanks here, because I have my teammate to support with things like Javelin Scouts there. My teammate's got their own tanks, got TOW ML13 carriers and stuff. And I've got airstrikes. I have the money for them right now, but I do, in theory, have airstrikes. Oh. Enemy bringing in a nasty bomb there, and that is exactly why you don't cluster. You do not want to flood the point of like every Marine squad you have, because that's how you lose them all at once. It's much better, I've learned, to have like 8 Marine squads and then conveyor belt one onto the point at a time, assuming you've killed the enemy. one on the point at the time to hold it, and every time one of those squads dies, move in the next APC full of troops, replace them in a new position or in the same building position. Make sure your infantry in buildings. Infantry take a lot less damage in buildings until the building blows up. Once the building has blown up and is rubble, it can't be blown up again. But if a building that isn't rubble yet takes too much damage and blows up, every infantry in it dies. Just be aware of that for buildings that haven't been rubbled yet. We're bringing in some Ospreys with tow troopers here. Actually took some stinger fire from the left. I think this was from the original VDV airdrop right at the start of the game. I think they like wandered over there. I got kind of lucky that the Osprey tanked those hits though, and I didn't lose the 2 tow teams there. And the idea of these tow teams is to just get them in place quickly. There was so many enemy tanks. I needed a quick way to get them into place, so I knew it had to be helicopters for the speed. And then we're just going to shift-click them, shift-click move them through the buildings to keep them protected and make them move a bit faster as they're advancing through the city like this. Because when you get to a building, your infantry kind of garrisons into it immediately if you clicked on it, it's a way to like skip a little bit of distance. If you just like shift-click, queue a bunch of movement through buildings like that, you can kind of like warp through buildings very quickly and very safely. And stealthily too. Bringing in another F-35 here. It's very important when making a strike with buildings like this that we line up the strike so that we don't hit the buildings. In this case, I've moved my jet back on the back of the map so that I'm in between the buildings. You can see through the path there that we're in the right direction. Drop it, laser on. Laser gets interrupted by the buildings there, but that's okay because it's a pretty accurate hit. It's a bunch of clustered vehicles there, although we can only see one tank right now. I don't know if the others died or just hidden. They might have died already. Either way, you can see how even though it doesn't like one-shot the tank, it's got all these critical effects now, suppressed panic, and it has to run. It has to run or get finished off by pretty much anything else we have. And just like that again, the F-35 is just pivotal because the Marines, I just don't have anything close enough to kill that tank, so just bring in an F-35, it'll be there in 20 seconds, and your problem's solved. That's what the F-35's for. If you're playing against a US player, you need to stop their F-35s. If you are a US player, you need to try and keep them alive. And use them well. Don't be afraid to hit the front line constantly with them, even against enemy AA. If you do it right like I'm doing it, they will survive unless the enemy has a lot of AA, if they've really massed it. At this point I start paying attention to the left side of the map a bit more. It's over halfway now. And even though we've now successfully taken their natural point in the city, we're going to need to hold 3 points to win, otherwise it's a draw. And I don't want to draw. You see, I didn't even pay attention to what happens to the strike over there. You don't have to. I've been showing it on camera, either because I'm interested and I have the time, or because for your benefit, to watch it when I was playing. But the nice thing about queuing up these orders is you don't have to watch. You can bring in the jet, and once you get quick at it, you'll bring in the jet, you go P, 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 click, 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 you'll shift B, return to base, and then that's it. You don't have to do anything else. Just do all that order queuing in like 5 seconds, forget about it. Then the jet lives or dies and does its job based on what you told it to do. The main reason to watch longer is if you want to laze something. That's very necessary against heavy targets, and it's always ideal if you have the time. But in that case, I didn't have the time. I decided I just wanted to do other stuff, and I decided those targets I was striking on the left were like medium and light enough vehicles that I didn't need the laser precision. I could just kill them with the J-Cells cluster dot damage. But if it was like an Armada or a main battle tank, like a heavy tank, I'd be trying to laze them much more. I think there was like some backline red stuff threatening my allies' artillery over there, so I also brought in a Viper helicopter there, just to quickly try and rescue them, but it looks like they dealt with it before I got there. My tow teams that I helicoptered in are now moving up. We defeated the enemy's tank push, so now we're pushing up to take some forward positions. You want long, clear sight lines for your tow teams. You want to keep the enemy vehicles as far away as possible to maximize your range advantage, and stay away from enemy infantry and stuff too. Setting up an attack pattern. I don't think there was anything under the bombs that enemy Russian jet just hit, so it's another reason. Just don't cluster. There might have been like 3 Marines, I don't know. Don't cluster your soldiers on the point. The point will get the shit bombed out of it, even if they can't see what you've got there, because they're just like, oh, point, gotta clear it. It will happen. So don't give your enemy, like, just easy targets for artillery and bombing. You will lose shit to jets and artillery constantly. Just try to limit how much you lose at a time. There's like an enemy jet in our backline. Now here comes something to pay attention to. There's a very important thing I've forgotten to do, and here's the punishment for it. That felon, that SU-57, comes in with a bunch of seed missiles that home in on radar AA pieces. Just kills 3 of them in one pass and gets away with it. So there's 2 things I forgot to mention in all the stuff to say about this match. One of them is that you need to make sure you have your radar enabled on your Patriots, or similar if you're playing Russia, because it doubles their range against high-flying jets, and it's plus 25% against low-flying jets, and against helicopters if you have something like a SHORAD that has radar on it. So it's very important to do that. I think it gives them more accuracy maybe, but the double range is just essential. The problem, of course, is then you're vulnerable to seed. So what you do about that, and what I forgot to do here, I had a lot going on this match, and I didn't have a lot of money early on. But what you usually want to do is bring in PIVADs on the US side, right in front of them. You buy the PIVADs with the extra armor upgrade in your deck, you bring them in and you enable their radar, and you place them in front of your Patriots a little bit, as I'll do, when we get the money and my Patriots respawn. And what those do is they're a cheap way to tank seed missiles. The seed missiles will go for the closest thing first, so they'll go straight for those up-armored PIVADs. Those PIVADs will survive one hit, they'll only die to two, so in some cases your PIVADs won't even die and you can just resupply it, repair it. In other cases the PIVADs will die, but that's a 90-point PIVADs you lost instead of one of your limited, very important Patriots, that then get to keep their radar on all game long and not really worry about it. So it's a very important thing to do. If I'd had my PIVADs in place, that Su-57 wouldn't have killed any Patriots and would have just died, most likely on its way out. But it's a mistake to not have that in place by now, but I was doing everything else and I'd forgotten. I'd completely forgotten about the Patriots. It's very important when you're playing this game to understand that when you order something, there's a very, very high chance, at least with me, with my brain, that you'll just completely forget to do anything with it later. So it's important when you first call something in, to call it in somewhere where it's okay for it to just sit for the next 5 to 10 minutes. Patriots are a different story. Patriots are meant to just be ignored by me, I give them their supplies, so they order rearm, I put their radars on in a good position, and I just forget about them, unless I really need to move them up or back as the front line shifts its position. Okay, we're gonna airstrike a helicopter here again. With the Patriots, basically, you want them to be close enough to the front line that they ideally stop enemy bombers before they bomb your friendlies, but you want them far enough from the front line that enemy long-range artillery, like rockets and long-range tube artillery, can't just artillery your Patriots and kill them. Russians have like 45-meter range max right now, tube artillery, while Americans get 6,000-kilometer range HIMARS. So keep that in mind. But you'll learn that real soon when you play against someone and you're too close and they HIMARS you. You'll find out about it. Wow, how educational. Great job, Beagle. Yeah, I gave you the range. It's 6k. They're making a bit of a tank pushback here now. So you just keep the F-35 strikes up all game long. Anytime you see anything that you want dead, call in your F-35. And some games it's going to be a bit different. Airdrop coming on the other side there. Some games, if they really had decided to mass like more than 4 pieces in one area, Patriot, not Patriot, but like their version of Patriot, or if they're US Patriot, long-range radar AA, it's gonna get to be a harder story. The main thing with jets is that those radar-guided AA missiles, imagine them having like a 50% hit rate, right? And it takes 2 shots to kill a jet, so odds are you need 4 of those batteries firing at the same jet to reliably kill it before it gets away, in that sense, you know what I mean? And I've just been noticing this game all game long, like they cannot stop any F-35s really, so it's fine. Bring the Hornet in to try and deal with that paradrop. We get the drone instead. I'm trying not to fly directly over their front line because I do not want to get shot down by their long-range AA. They do have some. And jets that aren't stealth will die much quicker. Don't try to do what I'm doing with the F-35s with like a Hornet. The reason the F-35 can do it is it has a high stealth rating. Stealth rating divides the range at which a thing can be spotted. So that's why the F-35 gets away with it so good, because they don't even see the thing until it's dropped its bombs most of the time, and by that time it's already running away. Now, I didn't really even get time to mention, during all this, what I did on the left here, which is I brought in 3 units of scout snipers to try and get my teammate moving. Funnily enough, at the exact moment that I did that, they did start moving. I think I was starting to say this before, it's like, I was starting to look at the other side of the map and then I needed to push it to win. There's so much to talk about in these matches, I swear. Anyway, I brought in like 3 scout snipers. Unfortunately, they ended up accidentally moving into the same buildings that my teammate put their infantry in, and so they were detected and took fire along with the enemies, like, along with my allies' normal, like, marines and stuff. But that said, we still got the recon in there. And we were still able to, like, provide some optics. Watch this, now the Felon's back. Oh no, never mind. Patriots aren't even in yet. This isn't the point I'm thinking of. That Felon is looking to do some harm work, to do some seed work, but we haven't got our Patriots back yet. Bring him in now. Anyway, it's really important to have optics, it's really important to have recon, and especially when you're in a close position like this, where your your allies' lines, or your lines, and the enemy's lines are like 500 meters apart, like a really close knife fight. That's the time to bring in your really stealthy infantry like scout snipers. They're very slow, but that close it doesn't matter. And what does matter at that range is having a unit that can get really close to the enemy without being detected. So in this case, only one of my scout snipers survives, but it turns out to be enough. We're going to bring these scout snipers in on the right. Oh, sorry, on the left of the objective. And get some optics there. Meanwhile, there's like a counter push here. Trying to take the point back. It isn't really super well supported at this point. It's like a bunch of VDV infantry on their own, by the look of it. They have like... I guess they have like some artillery coming in, it looks like, but it's not very effective. They don't really have like good helicopter or air support right now. They're all clustered in the same building, so they're all going to die together. We're in some HIMARS here. We're going to use that to try and rocket the enemy. Just a little bit of saturation on that point. The enemy has like all of their infantry just holding that point. They don't have like a force in depth, it looks like. So if we just bomb that point, we're going to hit all of their cluster and just take it out all real quick. Meanwhile, my allies will then have the opportunity to move up and take that point as well. So again, I'm just trying to carry from the back this whole match. I'm not like going, oh, that point hasn't been taken yet. I need to like get 3 tanks up there and 5 infantry and push. I'm just kind of going like, okay, what does my ally, what do my 2 allies there need to push? Because they've already got the conventional units. And in this case, I'm like, well, they need recon. They need to see what they're dealing with so we can bomb it. And then once we bomb it, they can move in once it's crippled and they can mop it up and take the point. They're trying to mask kind of a counterattack on the right side. More on that in a second. But the HIMARS are shooting scooting, so we're firing. And then we're moving back to a helo drop supply point to rearm rockets. Then we'll move somewhere else, fire again, and repeat. We're going to bring an F-35 in on the left here. Won't do a lot of damage to infantry, but it's something. And the F-35 is idle right now. No other targets I want to hit. Can't hit a lot of the stuff on the right side right now over the city side because the enemy vehicles are hiding behind buildings, so the bombs won't be able to hit them via angle. Bringing in supplies for my Patriots. And we're mopping up now. Those infantry are getting bombed, artilleried, we're taking out their support units like I've been striking on F-35 striking the vehicles in this area all game. And without any of their support left, the enemy just runs out of steam. No infantry left. They have no reserves to move in at this point. Whereas on the other side you can see like I'm trying to hold some infantry back. I haven't had the money to make many reserves on the right because I'm playing basically both sides of the map at once in one way or another. But I do have some Marines on the right, ready to move in if my Marines on the point do die. And that's good, because that means your enemy can't just bomb you to death. If all your shit's on the point, the enemy will just bomb all your shit and then move in when you're dead. You want to make it so that the enemy can't just sit back and bomb you to win. You want to make it so that if they want to take the point, they need to get in there with real conventional warfare units, like tanks and infantry, and actually take the ground from you. Because if they don't, you're just going to keep bringing in new reinforcements and nullify their bombardments. Patriots have been back in place for a while now. I got my pivot screen in front of them, which will come into play later, you'll get to see. They're still just kind of like bombing the shit out of skyscrapers with those enemy jets when they get away with it. But it's not having a really big impact. Like at the most, that like 350 cost bomber is bombing like one squad of like 100-point infantry maybe. Like that's at best. And that's really just not economical for them. You do get the full refund of the jet once it gets back to base and does its mission, but the more stuff you have deployed at once, the less money you generate per minute. So every second that those jets are on the field, you're lowering your income. I think you have to pay for the ammo too, maybe. I don't know if you get the ammo refunded. And either way, that jet could be killing something better, you know? So at the very least, it's like a time opportunity cost. Those scout snipers on the island over there have been great. They've stayed there the whole round. I only ever had to like move them to get out of the path of where the enemy helos seem to be reinforcing off the map through, because if the helos fly too high, fly too close over them, they will get detected. And they've been great. They've been giving me a lot of good info about enemy aircraft that are coming before they get here, which allows my Patriots to fire sooner and allows me to react to them quicker. And they've also just been like showing me anytime there was like any AA or tank or vehicle in that open field to their right there, which is a popular place to put AA if we hadn't pushed them up so far at this point. You know, they spot that shit for us, which is fantastic. We're just bringing in some more supplies right now. Just some forward supply dumps for our vehicles to be able to drive back to and heal and rearm at. And we're just continuing our F-35 strikes. I want the Terminators more. The Terminators back there, BMPT Terminator, those are anti-infantry vehicles. They're very heavy armored, difficult to get rid of. That tank in front isn't going to hurt my infantry holding the point as much, but those Terminators will wreck them. So I need to kill those the most. Or, you know, damage them. So that's why I prioritize them. I get 2 of them in one go as well, also because of the cluster. They're not dead, but they're crippled. That person's not going to push them into attack now. Like, that's it for them. They got to go resupply now. Which, even at best for my enemy is just a fucking headache now. Of like, oh, I gotta resupply these fucking things. So in a lot of ways it makes them as good as dead anyway. Especially because of the upkeep thing. If you have units just sitting around, having to waste like 5 minutes to resupply them, then, you know, that's just a waste of money on the field, not accomplishing any task you wanted it to right now. We're gonna move the scout snipers over to this tall building over here now that we're done capping the point with them. Oh, I mean, they didn't cap the point, but they provided recon that was helpful for doing so. But that's done now, so they're going to move up and do something new. The Su-57 comes in there with the harms again, I think it was. You can see it flying off on the right side of the screen. They did end up actually getting a harm onto one of the Patriots, so it's not always targets the closest thing, but you can see that only 1 Patriot was killed this time, and I think 1 PIVADS. And that's the job of the PIVADS there, is you can compare that to last time, where that 1 Su-57 killed all 3 Patriots, and I was fucked on AA for like 5 minutes while they respawned. This time, like, 1 PIVADS, 1 Patriot down. It's a lot better, you know. Finish off the other Terminator there. I have to apologize because going into reviewing this match in video I thought would be much easier, and I thought it would just be like, oh, I'll just talk about everything as it happens and say all the smart things. But in practice, just talking about things for longer than 30 seconds has caused me to miss some stuff in this match. Just because I've been like trying to explain something, and then something else happens. They're a bit new there. They don't understand that cluster munitions are not anti-infantry, I think. Cluster munitions are only good against vehicles, really, especially in buildings. So they used the wrong bomb there. Something to learn if you're getting used to the game. Cluster is for vehicles. Gonna have some fun here. Now that our scout snipers have moved up to a high building, they've got spots on some backline support type vehicles. We're gonna use the sniper's laser detonator this time, rather than the F-35s. Oh, not this time, sorry, that's next. That's next up. I was killing their AA piece first. You can see how you can like just directly attack enemy AA pieces as long as they're solitary or like not too close to their friends, and as long as the enemy doesn't see you coming. You can get away with it a lot of the time with the F-35. And of course every enemy AA piece you kill is an even easier attack round for your next F-35 strike. Now we've got the laser on from the snipers. Not every unit has a laser, but the snipers do. The fact that the F-35 has its own laser is incredible though. That's what you're going to be using most of the time. I got artsy here for you guys, look, check it out. Yeah, Top Gun Maverick, call me. I'll direct the sequel. It's fun. Who doesn't like laser detonating with scout snipers from a tall building and then bringing in precision JDAMs on a laser detonation target? Who doesn't want to do that? Come on, everybody does. That's why I play this game. It's very important if your scout snipers get them into a tall building like this. Not one that the enemy's going to see you in, obviously. Try to stay out of the way of where the enemy's going to move. But as long as they're not within like 300 meters of you or a recon unit, they probably won't see you. And the reason you want to be so high up is because it gives you better loss. Infantry in this game get the benefit of basically the ceiling of their building, I think, or like the highest window. So if you're in a low-lying building, those Scout Snipers probably don't see all the stuff they do, but because they're in a tall building, the game gives them loss over the trees, over other smaller houses, one-stories. Loss meaning line of sight if you're really new to games. And so it's just way better than being like, oh, I can't see nothing. Like, those Scout Snipers on the middle island there in the forest, if they were in like a big smokestack building, they'd be able to see so much stuff from where they are. They're useful as they are, but you know, they could be better. Bringing in the Harm 57 again, I think. Again, see there how it goes for the, I think it takes two hits there because it dies one, then two. See how the missiles are fired at that Pivads? My Patriots are alive again. It's exactly what you want. So whenever you're using Patriots like this, you should be screening them with basically bait radar-enabled Pivads in front. And that'll just make it so much easier to do work with your Patriots. My Patriots were pretty far back this whole match. But I didn't want them to get artillery, especially because I was the only player who bought Patriots this whole match. It was just more important to me they stayed up so that we kept that AA presence throughout the match so the enemy couldn't just do whatever they wanted with jets the whole time. It's the last couple of minutes here. I was like... I mean, I was pretty relaxed this match in general. I wasn't as stressed as if I was like fighting like a really pressured front line. But that said, I still hadn't even noticed at this point that it was only 2 minutes left, so I'm still like going pretty hard, like, oh, do airstrikes, do airstrikes. In this case, this strike would have hit the building if I tried to hit where they were, so I hit in front of them to hit past the building, and get some cluster JSOW damage, AoE, on that Terminator. Better than nothing. Just kind of bad timing there when the strike come in. If I'd really been paying attention, I probably should have waved off my jet, had it wait a bit. But in this case, I'm so unpressured, I just bring in another one to finish the job. Laser on from the snipers as much as we can. And you can see how easily the sniper laser gets distracted by line of sight and stuff. That's why the F-35 having its own laser is so incredible. Because it's so high in the sky, it's rarely going to be blocked, and unless the enemy's in a forest, you're almost always going to get it to work. Just remember the laser's max range is 4K. Don't bother trying to click it on before that, but once you're within 4K, go crazy. It's the last bit of the match here, and so I just bring in a Harrier to screen for any, like, panic airdrop attempts from the enemy to, like, flip the last point at the last second. And I bring in another unit of Marine Raiders just to, again, if they get an airdrop through, just to make sure that we've got enough grunt in that zone to hold it. But at this point, it takes so long to cap a point that it's really too little too late. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. My HIMARS are probably the thing I forgot the most in this match, apart from not screening with Pivads earlier on. I brought them in, and just forgot to use them a lot. That's honestly, in ways, shows how well the back half of the match went, though, once we took all the points, because if I'd been getting artillery a lot, you can bet I would have remembered to use the HIMARS, because I use the HIMARS to kill enemy artillery, generally. The fact that I forgot to use them all game just reflects how we really didn't get effectively artilleried a lot. And now, if this was a real match and wasn't the end, as I'd realized it was by now, I would be going for that cluster of vehicles, because that's juicy. But there's 5 seconds left in the match, and I want to kill another helicopter with laser-guided bombs. You won't get to see it, but if you listen... Keep your ears out now. You will get to hear it. I hope I did a reasonable job commentating this match review here. You know, ideally I would like write a script for this and like perfectly show everything and pause in all the places I need to. But as it was, I wanted to get something that I could actually like make quickly and not take a billion years to get out. Because it takes a lot longer to script and do stuff like that. So I just ran this one to end and just kind of commentated it over it. Tried to be as relevant as I could, but I think at some points I probably was too busy talking about some tangent like how to F-35 bomb and not enough about like, hey, I just bought some recon here. But I think hopefully I talked about everything I did eventually, even if it was like 5 or 10 minutes later, I did talk about what I did. So if you did watch the whole thing, hopefully you kind of got like the full picture. And also, you know, you can see what I'm doing on the map as I do it. And you can kind of see what I'm doing, like we're bringing in the recons, even if I forget to mention it. It's not ideal though. Like I would prefer to have done something like a bit more scripted, but you know it takes a lot more time, and then I wouldn't have this video out for like a month probably, or you know, in between my other stuff I got going on in my life. So this is like an easier way to do it. I think what I might do based on feedback though, if I do more of these, is maybe like pause more and just talk about a thing. And the video will probably be twice as long that way, probably like 2 hours instead, which is another nice thing about just going through it. It's like kind of quick to watch, quicker. But, you know, then I get to actually zoom in on stuff, like be like, okay, you know, pause. Here I'm bringing in the recons, or pause. This is how you F-35 strike. Okay, let's continue. That said, it's all up to what you think on feedback. I'd like to do more of these because I really love this game, and it's just trying to squeeze in making YouTube content when I can around the rest of my life. If it was helpful to you, let me know. If you thought that it went all over the place a bit too much and you'd like me to like pause more, let me know as well. I think also if I do more of these, it'll be easier because a lot of the stuff I'm explaining during this video that I think got me distracted was like, if you're brand new to the game, which is who this is designed for if you're trying to learn the game, you know, here's some basic concepts like unit upkeep, how to precision bomb with the F-35, setting up Patriots of radar, stuff like that. I think if I end up doing more of these, we can just focus on like, oh, you know, don't have to explain that again, you know, just focus on what's going on in the match more. But I do hope it was useful. I don't want to sit here rambling on forever, because that doesn't help anyone. Just let me know in the comments, did you like this? Did you dislike this? Totally fine, either way, but let me know what you did or didn't like, and also let me know if this was helpful for you, or wasn't helpful enough. Let me know what you would like help on if you're trying to learn this game. I'm really passionate about this game, and I'd love to help people learn it. I think it's great. I want it to be successful. And it's just nice to help people. So if there's anything, big or small, that you are struggling with as a new player, US-sided, preferably, I don't play Russia, let me know. Comment on it. Be like, hey, can you go into more detail how you do the F-35 strikes? Hey, how exactly do you do your air stuff, like anti-air Patriots? Hey, how do you do an infantry assault exactly? Like, focusing on stuff. I'd be very happy to talk about more stuff, or if it's just other stuff, like, you know, hey, how do you use tanks? Because I didn't use any tanks this match. I didn't have the money. But hopefully it kind of shows how you can kind of help turn a match around from a very bad start there. I don't think that I did like an exceptional job. Like, I think the enemy really slacked in their pressure, and they just didn't have like a good defense in depth to stop us from just taking their points real quick. They held the points up until halftime, but they did not have units out in front of the point, so that as soon as we attack that point and we're ready to do so, it's just like, bam, take the point. Where in their position, what you want is you want to, okay, hold the point, but then you want to push forward, and now, you know, 2 kilometers, then 3 kilometers, then 4 kilometers, keep advancing more units you reinforce in front of your line, so that now, if I had tried to do that shit to them, and they had Russian infantry in the positions where I launched my assault from, it's like, okay, this is going to take forever, because now I have to take those buildings, then I have to take the next buildings they've got garrisoned, and then I have to take their point finally. And the important thing is, even if I defeat and win all of those engagements to get to the point where I can assault the cap, they've had so much time, because of how long that'll take, to either defeat me, counter me, or bring in new reinforcements to get ready for that assault on my cap. Whereas what happened on the cap in this game on the infantry assault is they had like a couple infantry squads there, and we just showed the fuck up with AAVs and did like a thunder run and took the point, and they never took it back. They tried, but they never took it back. So definitely consider that if you can mindfully spend some mental for it as well. When you're on frontline and you're taking a point, get ahead of the point once you've secured it. Don't move up the units you had on the point, ideally. Leave them there. Don't cluster, remember. Leave a couple units there, and then move new units up, and just create multiple lines of defense like that. And in that way, it's going to be way harder for the enemy to get through you. Even if all your units just die, it'll take them time to kill them. I said I wasn't going to ramble forever, but that was an important point, I think, to pick up on here. Anyway, point is, please let me know if you like this or didn't. It's that simple. And let me know what you would like to see more of or less of. I'm gonna go, because I'm the kind of person who tends to ramble if you leave me on here for too long. So bye-bye. I stream this game on Twitch, by the way, twitch.tv/BiggsandJam. I've got a lot of matches in the VOD, and you can watch me play this game more in the future, live, and ask me questions live if you're interested. But, that's it. Bye-bye. Check the description for links like that. See you later.